to go back to the reality. No. I have merits. This was just a surface. I have merits on the constitution now. I have a part of a disagreement with Marr's position on the constitution. You see, for me, we need a constitution. I agree with him. And both the 2020 draft and the 2024 draft will go to the parliament, and then the parliamentarians can touch it, right? But for me, is legitimacy and setting precedents. The 2020 draft is called the people's draft. Do you know why? Not because everybody sat in the CRC and wrote, but the consultation approach touches both Gambians home and abroad.
It was inclusive.
It was very inclusive. So right now, for me, I'm seeing the 2020 draft and the 2024 draft in two terms used in democracy: participatory democracy and representative democracy. Now, the executive have a feeling that we hired them, we appointed them, so they should be able to build laws for us using our thinking that this is how they think. That's what representative democracy means. And that's what happens with the 2024 draft. The 2020 draft was a participatory democracy, inclusive. Everybody was involved. So now, if the government get excited that they want to give us a new constitution, of course, they are the executive. Like you said, no law, I cannot take a law to the parliament. You cannot take a law to the parliament. It's the executive. The executive needs to look at two ways of legitimacy here. I read this book of on constitutional building, and it talks about legitimacy from a legal perspective, but talks about legitimacy from a moral perspective. If Barrow looks at the 1997 Constitution to Act, he should also listen to what the people say and then balance it with what the law says and deliver what is best for the people. The 2020 draft cannot go back untouched, they claim. There are no legal basis that it cannot be touched. But you see, there are minor problems in the Constitution I observed that they can touch and reintroduce without having to touch any of the clauses that are bringing the controversy, and the parliament does that now. Let's say, for example, the preamble. I spoke to one of the TJ experts that is very, very interested in TJ process, Howell from South Africa. And he said the preamble, in fact, of the 2020 draft is more problematic than the clauses we are arguing about. Do you know why? Because it only gives us an ordinary language. It doesn't tell us why are we even building a constitution. It's a common sense preamble. Of course, instead of a preamble that tells us what happened to the 1997 Constitution, how did the 1997 Constitution result us to all of what happened in this country until we want a new Constitution?
The preamble in the 2020 draft is pretty much the same as
the 1997
Constitution. People need to read and see what.
Sorry, just change that. Just change that now, because they said they cannot have the 2020 draft reintroduced without being touched. Just change that, and then let's go to the parliament now. Because Marr, you see, if we have the 2020 draft, it's the same risks like the 2024 draft that the parliament will still touch, and what they will touch and they will not touch, we don't know, and we may not have an influence over. Their consultations will be remitted, like you made mention. I'm glad when you said all the bills have been going through consultation. You also meant expert. Most of the time, they will call Omar and Saibo and Nene and civil society and few other people that deviate.
And call it consultation.
Exactly, and so consultation. Now, for me, both constitutions go to the parliament and go to the consideration stage and are going to be touched. I prefer the 2020 draft.
Who is the chair of the Constitution and Human Rights Committee at the National Assembly? Is it not led by an opposition?
Yes.
Right?
I think it's now, this is the thing.
Yes. I'm just coming.
No.
It's who?
It's Madi Cisse.
Just allow me here. Let me explain this. Right? The parliamentarians, right, and the committee, and I've explained this, how this could actually work. The Constitution has cross-cutting issues, right? It has issues on public finance, human rights, children's rights, agriculture, and so all of these committees exist within the National Assembly, unlike any other bill. So you have these committees. All of these committees could be deployed to go back to the people. This is going to be a model parliamentary constitutional building process.
Okay. So,
right? The problem that you guys have not touched, the root problem, we've been talking about the problem 3 from the beginning. The root problem that you guys have not touched is the loyalty of parliamentarians to political parties than the people.
So I was
That's the biggest problem.
I was gonna
Now-
come there. My time. I have a lot to say. Don't steal my time. I was gonna come to that, but quickly to tell you. You see, executive concerns are dangerous. Tunisia is a good example. When Tunisia built their constitution, today the same constitution is torn against the people of Tunisia. Do you know why? Because the executive did the same. When the constitution was built, the executive look at the constitution and feel like the constitution doesn't suit them, they butcher it to suit the interest of one person. So what I mean is both constitutions will go through the same process. But the 2020 draft for me is more legitimate to go to the parliament and be touched, good or bad. Now we have a business with the parliamentarians than have the borough papers being touched in the parliament. That's the honest truth. You know why? Because it set a precedent. This is the precedent. Def nem ko, jignu, then ko defat.
Okay, let me ask you this
You
question.
get?
Let me ask you this question. If the 2020 draft is brought back, who has the majority in parliament? Can the ruling party make the 2020 worse than the 2024 or even the 1997?
That is why I said now, that becomes between us and the parliamentarians. Do you know why? The real form of the constitution, the majority of Gambians supported, is what is taken to the parliament. Now, if it is touched in a manner that doesn't favor us, it becomes our business with our representatives. But now, having the 2024 draft, this is the implications. One, bad precedents. Barrow def na lu moo def, Dawda Jallow toog na State House, jënda coffee, butcher suñ constitution bi nu ko neexee, and we accept it in our parliament, and we accept it to in fact go through a process. Marr, that's where the problem is. Tomorrow, they will set something else. And we come back to the negotiation table and say, because we want this, ñu allow ko mu dem fale and def lii. Precedents, 1. 2, if you look at the 2020 draft and you look at the parliamentary settings, I have a high feeling that the 2020 draft will survive the needs and aspirations of the Gambian people than the 2024 draft. So therefore, I agree with you, we need a constitution. But you see, out of frustration, we need a constitution that resound the minds and the thinking of the Gambian people. Otherwise, we will
never get that constitution.
No, we will.
You will never go.
No, all what we need to do is to
Under the
speak.
current
No.
dispensation,
No.
or should never happen?
In fact, we will. Nene, we will. You know what? We will. You see, soon gawe tamit. You see, if soon gawe tamit that we just want a constitution.
No.
Nyaka pehe, what naka pehe at all
This
times.
is the mistake that a lot of people are making.
No.
Constitutional law.
If we say that we just need a constitution, we need a constitution. We must define what constitution we need for the future. You see, the 1997 constitution was not as bad as we talk about it today in 1997. Right? What happens? We gave a room to an executive to look at us and say, look, I know what you want more than you. I will do A and B and C. And then that's what Barrow did with the 2020 draft, in fact, without having it enacted as a law. So for me, it's Barrow versus the people.
Right.
And then the people's voice reflects in the 2020 draft. Let it go to the parliament. If the parliamentarians touch it, now it's not between us and Barrow. It's between us and our parliamentarians, and we will sort that out.
Okay. I want to tell you this. It's actually a good opportunity to set a precedent. The precedent is the executive develop a proposed constitution, taken to parliament, and the parliamentarian decided not to go with the proposed constitution of the executive. The parliament decided to engage people, get the legitimacy from the people. There are different layers. There are different layers of adopting this constitution.
Right.
First, it passed through parliament. And then once it passed through parliament, the people should be given the opportunity to decide whether they want a constitution or not. This has not been the case in 2020. And if we are not careful, it's not going to be the case in 2024. And if it doesn't happen, we might as well even forget about this constitutional reform process.
Right.
You understand? So I think we are taking a very dangerous position, being too rigid in the way we approach this, saying Barrow papers, blah, 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 when the constitution now, which is before the houses of the people, should be taken back to the people. The same 2020 has to go through parliamentary procedures, and it will be amended.
Yeah. I agree, but I prefer that one being amended.
Not what you prefer. This is about what the country wants. The country wants constitutional reform. Be it 2020, be it 2024, or any draft that comes, for God's sake. What we want is a constitution.
But not just anything.
Wait a minute. I'm not coming.
So that's what is dangerous.
No. I said that you have not allowed me to complete my sentence.
Okay, go ahead.
I said, be it 2020, 1997, or 2024, any constitution that comes to Parliament, we should give the Gambia the constitution that they deserve. And it's the Parliament that can do that. TRC might have done an exceptional work. If it gets to Parliament, it could be butchered. The way the executive butchered it, Parliament can still butcher it. So what reservation do we have for the 2024 based on we don't trust Parliament, but we have that optimism with the 2024 trusting Parliament, saying it is between us, the Parliament. Before you realize, it's already late, because there you are not the one that's making the decision. The FGM, you are not there to make the decision. The Parliament Remuneration Bill, you are not there to make the decision. It was Parliament, you and everyone start complaining. It's already water under the bridge. It's law, and law must not be seen to be non-existent. Is it existing? It is a law, it is a law.
But regardless of them having the power to do whatever they want, doesn't mean that people also does not have to have their stance all the way, right? I guess also it's consoling to know that I believe that doesn't serve the interest of the people. So therefore, I'm not going to water down, or I'm not going to compromise on it, knowing that when it gets to the people that are going to vote it out, they will do otherwise, and that's the reason why I'm going to compromise.
One more thing, and Abla will come. One more thing, Abla will come.
Time.
Now, one more thing, just 1 minute. That now, let's do this. I want to have a consensus with Marr before Barrow and Hussein will have a consensus. Let's do this. Let's have the Parliament have the 2020 draft and have the 2024 draft and go to consultation and ask people A or B, and then they will come back and amend.
That is not a parliamentary best practice. I'm telling you, because you have to take the bill that is before Parliament to consult people on that. If you're doing your consultation on a bill that is before Parliament, you understand? Look, we have done work on this. For 5 days, we look at the 2020, look at the 2024, and that of these two draft constitutions, and then make recommendations. You understand? It's a 91-page document that the Parliament can look at. So what we are interested in is to achieve this constitutional reform goal, but a constitution that people deserve. You look at the 2020 constitution, people will tell you we don't agree with the issue of marriage.
Of course, yeah.
The language has to be clear. And then this language was the same language that is in the 1997 constitution. This language is the same language that is in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. But time and issues, circumstances, and communities have changed. People say we need a more specific definition of marriage, that marriage is between a man and a woman.
Changed
it has changed in the 2020.
Yes, it does.
It does. It has changed. So many things have changed. You understand? Both good and bad. But we pick the bad
the
ones
dangerous
and
thing
talk
is,
about it.
But now the issue,
the dangerous thing is,
if
the
you're
things that
trying
have
to
changed
progress,
good
you
are
progress
not
for the better, right? If there were some that people felt was not good, and then now in this one they made it better, which is acceptable to the people, that's okay. But you cannot take things that were acceptable to the people on that other one, and then you render it to a way that now people don't even want it.
It's a draft. It's a draft.
That's what I'm saying. It's a draft. That's what I'm saying. But anyway, go ahead.